Bstard, biggest majority in the House of Commons.
The New Statesman, the Right Honourable Alan Bstard, was the Bstard child of 80s greed and 80s politics. In 1987, Margaret Thatcher had just won her third general election and Britain was divided as never before.
We hated the Conservative government because of the unhappiness that they caused for so many people.
There was us, Spitting Image and Private Eye, and everyone else had given up. So we just felt we had to go in there and start kicking and biting and scratching.
And the new sitcom was to do exactly that.
Mr. Bstard, I will briefly yield to the honourable member for Halton Price, Mr. Speaker, because it's always interesting to hear the crypto-fascist ravings of the loony right.
Au contraire, Mr. Speaker. Which I translate as that's what you think for the benefit of the member for Bramall who probably never went to school.
It was September 1987 when the New Statesman first made his outrageous presence felt.
When I say that we are sick and tired of this sort of lefty trot whinging.
The New Statesman, the unacceptable face of Thatcherism, would go on to radically change TV satire and ultimately the face of British politics.
Undoubtedly, there's something about his sliminess and ambition, which was recognisable in certain characters in the House of Commons, particularly in the Tory party.
Dear Mr. Bstard, I'm unemployed and I can't afford to feed my family.
And out in the real world, viewers recognised the truth when they saw it.
We'd never seen audience reaction like it before, ever, in any of the shows we'd ever done, where a recording would have to stop because people were too hysterical.
Excuse me, sir. You've got 50p for a cup of tea. Well, of course I have. What a stupid question.
The New Statesman was a successful marriage of two different comedy styles, mainstream sitcom and popular alternative comedy. The creature the marriage produced was a compelling character that has resonated through politics ever since.
Sorry, sir. Members only.
I am a member. I've got the largest majority in the House.
Name?
Bstard.
I'm really doing my job.
It might have been Neil Simon or some brilliant American writer said, all comedy is two Jews fighting. And we are all comedy.
Two-thirds of the team that would create The New Statesman was itself one of the most successful writing partnerships in television history, a hit factory for 25 years. Lawrence Marks and Maurice Gran started out as a journalist and a civil servant, but in 1974 stumbled upon a writers' group.
They had sketch writing competitions every couple of months, and we did quite well in those, and seemed to be able to make people laugh.
But it was another 4 years before they got their first break, writing traditional gags for Frankie Howard's radio show. This gained Marks and Gran an entree to the mainstream, and in 1980 they got their own ITV series, Holding the Fort.
I don't have a younger sister, Hector. This is my mother.
Talk about the secret of eternal youth.
No secret, Hector. Mother simply surrounds herself with young people. Male, mostly. Thank you.
1980 also saw one of the country's most outrageous young comedians burst onto our TV screens. But Rik Mayall seemed to be kicking against Marks and Gran's mainstream style.
I remember we did Waiting for Godot at school, and we did some Stoppard at school, and that's why I thought I'd go to university to study drama.
Manchester was where Rik met Adrian Edmondson. Bored with straight theatre, they began performing as a double act called 20th Century Coyote. Gigs followed at the Comedy Store in London, a haven for a new group of emerging and like-minded alternative comedians. They were spotted by TV producer Paul Jackson, who wasted no time getting them onto Boom Boom, Out Go the Lights. Mayall cornered the market in dysfunctional investigative journalists as Kevin Turvey in the BBC's A Kick Up the 80s.
And here's a good one. Why does Mrs. Thatcher always wear barbed wire underwear? She doesn't. It's a joke.
And he also developed a character closer to home.
Imagine there's a poet who comes on with a lot of political poets and beautiful poets and great poets and this, that and the other, and then an utter twat comes on who can't say his R's properly and is obviously in love with Vanessa Redgrave and has written lots of poems about her. And when this is what was really brilliant, was when I came on and said, hello, my name's Rik, and someone would laugh.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm. I like to read
The angry love poem that I've written, and it's called Vanessa. Shut up!
And I just get really, really angry with the audience. I started going, shut up! Shut up! This is really serious poetry! Really! Right, and then they'd really erupt in laughing, but they tried to stop themselves laughing. Because it wasn't a comedy evening, right? It was a poetry evening.
Vanessa, I shall go to my grave with a bleeding heart. But at least it will be a red grave. Shut up!
One of the people who saw Rik doing Rik was Lawrence Marks. Mayall made a mixed impression.
I thought, this guy's got such great comic timing, but he's probably raving mad.
Paul Jackson also saw alternative sitcom potential in the acts performing at the Comedy Store, and as a result, the young ones crashed into our living rooms in 1982.
I'm going to write to my MP.
But you haven't got an MP, Rik. You're an anarchist.
Well, then I shall write to the lead singer of Echo and the Bunnymen.
It was anarchic and political, but it was also physical, slapstick and cartoonish, giving the cast the freedom to indulge their wickedest fantasies.
Say, can I have a head that explodes? You say, yeah, no problem, Rik. Yeah, I'll have you that by 2 o'clock, don't worry about it. And you think of a joke, and there it is.
While the young ones caused mayhem on BBC Two, ITV chose to launch a gentler comedy with a domestic setting. It was written by Marks and Gran, by now an established, reliable team. Shine On Harvey Moon is a humorous social commentary on post-war Britain, but during filming, the political climate outside the studios had an impact on the writers.
I can never understand your sort of working-class Toryism. Anyone would think we had a few bob. What have they ever done for the likes of us? Every step forward the common man has made in this country has been opposed by the bosses and their political lackeys.
Morris and I were making Shine On Harvey Moon in Nottingham during the miners' strike, and the more I was watching the population of Yorkshire villages starving, the more I was hating Thatcher.
Neil, the bathroom's free, unlike the country under the Thatcherite junta.
Marks and Gran came from a very different comedy world to Mayall, but their political agendas were similar.
It isn't wholly surprising that the two different, if you like, the serious analysis of politics and the ludicrous analysis of politics of the time should have got together.
Paul Jackson says to me, why don't you come to something in somewhere like Cheltenham, some kind of television festival or television awards ceremony or something like that. And he came and said, I think you might like to meet these guys. And that's where I met Lawrence Morris.
We met Rik Mayall, who said, would you create a series for me? And we didn't want to because we thought he'd be really annoying and trouble.
Their styles might have been totally different, but what they had in common was comedy.
I was invited to a gentleman called Dino De Laurentiis' party one evening. That was my first big Hollywood party, and that was the time that I actually heard somebody say to somebody else, I love your nose, where did you get it?
Rik Mayall.
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody.
After all appearing on the same episode of Wogan, they met for lunch, and Marks and Gran were relieved Rik wasn't as bad as they feared.
He described to us that he, in fact, enjoys playing characters that enjoy murder, rape, violence, theft of property, street crime, anything that was really bad.
Why?
And cowardice.
And greed. And lying.
And avarice.
And we said, you want to play a Tory backbencher?
I did not say that I opposed abortion. What I oppose is the so-called woman's right to choose. It should be the state's right to choose. Ugly, stupid, poor people should not be allowed to have children.
With their star playing a corrupt Tory MP, they just needed a channel brave enough to commission the idea.
Although I was commissioning editor, I still have to sell the show on to my boss to be able to get the money in the first place. So he always wants to know what it's about. And writers hate doing synopses.
Because you're frightened it'll drain away the things you want to put into the show.
They came up with the idea of creating a Who's Who entry for their character. Bstard's recreations got them noticed pretty quickly.
Making money, dining at expensive restaurants at other people's expense, grinding the faces of the poor. We then put the reply to this entry from Who's Who said, Dear Mr. Bstard, your entry is of inordinate length for a new boy. For example, it's a line longer than Lord Hailsham's entry. Bstard then replied to that saying, re your letter, re my letter, bollocks. Yours with the biggest majority in the House of Commons, the Right Honourable Alan Beresford Bstard MP, P.S. Who the fuck is Lord Hailsham? And that's what we sent to Yorkshire Television, and by return he rang up and said, when do you want to do it?
At that time, comedy had settled very comfortably into mum and dad and 2 children. It was, by and large, very domestic.
It's wallet time, mother.
What? I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't speak unemployed.
This came up as being something totally, utterly different, and it gave us satire back in the 80s, which I felt was desperately important.
The combination of Mayall and Marks and Grand's different comedy styles had the potential to create something explosive, perfect for ITV's 10 p.m. Sunday slot. Scathing about a powerful sitting government, it was a brave but risky commission. One major problem was transforming Mayall from a physical performer into a Conservative MP, not known for flexibility.
Oh, Rick, man, that's really heavy, man. I hate rats, okay?
It's what he would have wanted.
I've always wanted to put cartoons, or be a cartoon. And so, as you lead towards the Statesman, that was a sort of swerve away from that.
The director appointed to work with Mayall to find his new character was Geoffrey Sachs. Prior to working on The New Statesman, Sachs was getting laughs out of the rubber puppets on Spitting Image. He had been entrusted with bringing Rowan Atkinson to the screen in his first TV show, Canned Laughter, and started his career on End of Part 1, a surreal sitcom by Andrew Marshall and David Renwick.
There was a time when we were quite sort of depressed and thinking we're never going to find this character.
Pierce?
Yes?
Your father's dead.
But during rehearsals, the true Bstard gradually emerged.
It suddenly occurred to us that it would be a lot better if he just didn't care less.
I promised to go down and see him next week.
Well, you have to go down a lot further if you want to see him now, haven't you?
Instead of playing him angry as a sort of bastard, we went the other way completely and played it so that it didn't occur to him that the things he was doing were in any way sort of morally reprehensible.
Pierce! It was only a joke. Oh, really? No, not really. He's dead, all right.
Aspects of your character which you disapprove of are sort of pressed down and hidden away in the back somewhere, where you don't like those bits of yourself, right? And the character comes up and goes, I like him. And all those bits that you've put away can be put in there. So I think it's because there's a lot of me in Alan that I disapprove of. That's why I do him so well.
His look was also important.
She likes her boys well turned out. Look at us. Parky, bakey, meaty. We all get our suits in Savile Row. Well, I mean, where did you get that thing? Swindon.
We said the big thing about Tories is their hair. They've all got little curly bits over their ears.
Norman Fowler.
Like Norman Fowler. It's because they comb their hair with a wet comb. That's what toffs do.
Where are you going to find a large number of stupid, greedy people rich enough to invest in a dubious scheme like this?
Political sleaze was to contribute to the Tories losing the '97 election, and the phrase was a perfect description of Bstard. And in their drive for accuracy, the writers enlisted the Labour peeress, Renée Short, to get the technical facts right, but had called on political help from the start.
I just wrote to my local MP, Michael Portillo, and said, "Dear Mr. Portillo, I am a writer. I am going to be writing about a Conservative backbencher. I wonder if you would give us the time to show us around the House of Commons."
If you're going to write, a realistic sort of drama about the House of Commons, you want to know about these nooks and crannies where people do the plotting and the scheming. The bars, the smoking rooms, the libraries, all the places that the public is usually not allowed and that you don't even see photographs of.
Maggie! Love the trouser suit. Oh, sorry, Heseltine, didn't know it was you.
Later, when the programme started, news got out that I had helped them, and this somehow then became confused with the idea that I was the model for Alan Bstard.
Of course he's not. But the problem with publicity is then you've got to keep the enigma going. So say, I can't tell you that, rather than no. So the truth is always very opaque. I might be doing it now.
Even people who didn't think I was the model for Alan Bstard thought what a bastard I was for allowing these three into the House of Commons to make a series about a very unflattering portrait of a Conservative MP, and a series that did the Conservative Party no good at all.
The series promised to be controversial and started with a bang. Alan Bstard kills off his two election opponents to become the Tory member for the Yorkshire constituency of Halton Price. His strategy delivered him the largest majority in the House of Commons.
Caslon, William Richard.
Labour.
3,237. Bstard, Alan Beresford.
Conservative.
31,756.
The controversy was only just beginning. The combination of Marks and Grand's carefully constructed narrative and Mayall's slapstick antics created a savage new type of satire.
It was a stroke of genius, combining what exclusively Thatcherism represented with Punch and Judy. And that's sort of what it was. It was cartoony at one level, but, you know, there's certain elements of truth even in Mr. Punch.
Bstard revelled in brutality, both physical and verbal. As a Conservative backbencher in Margaret Thatcher's government, he caused trouble wherever he went.
God did not put animals on this earth merely to wander around aimlessly like the Labour front bench.
Bstard blackmailed and abused his way through life and was forever dreaming up corrupt money-making schemes, all in the name of his Thatcherite values.
I think that proves that balanced television doesn't have to be dull.
Alan Bstard is
charming,
ruthless, good-looking,
Beelzebub,
cunning as a snake,
arrogant and devious.
A complete and utter bastard.
The supporting characters were equally unflattering, but still realistic. Much of Bstard's grotesque behaviour was targeted at Piers Fletcher Dervish.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear.
Bstard's hapless sidekick, best friend and fellow Tory backbencher was played by Michael Troughton.
Fingers, Piers. Fingers. You don't kiss Alan.
I think the purpose that Piers served was that it was a good whipping boy for Alan. He could be really cruel.
But half of £2,000 is...
Piers represented the old school of traditional upper-class twit Conservative wets.
.00573889.
As did their other companion, Sir Stephen Baxter.
We'd be better off with a performing seal, really, wouldn't we?
Sex is wrong. That's what my fiancé's always said.
Sex without marriage is a mortal sin, and yet sex within marriage is an enemy to domestic harmony. This is the work of a genius. She sums up my last 47 years in a nutshell.
Alan Bstard, when he became an MP in the first episode, he shared an office in the House of Commons with a young Tory MP and a very old Tory MP. And Michael Troughton played the young one, who was pretty dim, and I played the old one, who was extremely dim.
Sir Stephen Baxter was played by John Nettleton, who had a track record in political satire, as prior to the New Statesman he was Sir Arnold Robinson in Yes Minister.
Chance Humphrey, I'm only Cabinet Secretary. I'm not the political correspondent of the New Standard.
I played a reptilian, very intellectual Whitehall Mandarin. So when I was approached about being in the New Statesman, I rather leapt at the chance.
Alan picked on Piers. They both picked on Sir Stephen, but Sir Stephen had some seniority, so he could occasionally get a blow back in.
I think you should know, Bstard, I'm reporting you. Fletcher Dervish, stop that at once. This is not the Liberal Party.
Bstard also had the perfect trophy Tory wife, and his marriage was as corrupt and dodgy as his political career.
Let us pray.
I don't know why I married you.
You married me, my darling, because you're nouveau riche, whereas I can trace my family tree back to Edward II. Amen. And because my father's chairman of the local Conservative Association and holds your parliamentary seat in his gift.
Yes, well, it was a rhetorical question, wasn't it?
Alan did epitomise the Tory party.
He married well.
Yes, he married Posh, and of course Posh was played by Posh, because Marcia Fitzalan Howard, being the daughter of the Duke of Norfolk, was about as posh as you come.
If you want loyal, helpful, supportive Tory wife pay off my credit card bill.
Well, I would do, darling, but it's a choice between paying your dress bill and personally financing Britain's independent nuclear deterrent.
Although she's a great, talented actress, she didn't have too much acting to do. She was a most believable Tory wife.
Fitz-Alan's TV career began in 1975 in Upstairs Downstairs. She played super posh Caroline Bingley in Pride and Prejudice, then broke into sitcom playing an accounts girl in Shelley. But Sarah Bstard in The New Statesman was a complete departure.
I'd done lots of these really tired, boring sitcoms with a three-piece suite. Whereas this was just incredible what they dared do.
Well, that's politics, Fluffy Bottom.
Listen, mustache, bath's running.
All right, darling. Yearn for you longingly.
Sarah Bstard is just as sick as Alan, because it's in her blood. And the fact that she's shacking everybody and Alan's shacking everybody and they keep up pretense of being outraged at each other. And the morality is just appalling.
I'm your little rabbit.
And I'm a rabbit too. Right, I'm off down Stringfellows to commit adultery.
Vivian Heilbronn was Alan's publicist Beatrice, who kept stum about having it off with Sarah.
Will it keep until morning?
That will. I won't.
He doesn't have a clue about what is going on. And that was rather fun to do, so the conversations with Alan are underpinned by the knowledge of the relationship that is going on between Beatrice and Sarah.
The first series averaged 7 million viewers, figures which were helped by huge publicity. It trod a fine line between reality and fiction, and was soon being used by the press as a reference point for real events, a sure sign of success.
3 weeks into its run, in 87, a Daily Mirror front page splashed headline was "What a Bstard," and the name had just sort of permeated its way into the national consciousness.
The Bstard character was just a typical example of what the Tory party at that particular time was going through. So therefore he became utterly believable.
All I did was tell her the truth! It's a fatal mistake for a politician, Piers.
New Statesman had one foot in reality, one foot in fantasy, except sometimes the fantasy side was actually more real than the reality side, because I think they were doing things in the fantastic stories that they came up with, which a week later would end up in the newspapers as real.
We can't dump it here.
Why not?
Because the mine runs under a school, that's why not. You can't dump nuclear fuel under an infant school.
It's only a council school.
And then about 4 weeks later, there's a big story in one of the papers saying that an MP has, or a school in Grimsby has a consignment of nuclear waste found under the school.
It did become a fact of life imitating art, because many of the things that the writers dreamed up and did with Rik just turned out to be true.
But why did we welcome the hideous Bstard into our homes?
I hate queers almost as much as I hate poor people.
I think the reason people like him is because he's not a hypocrite. He makes no bones about being greedy, depraved and cowardly. He's the only character in fiction, in all languages, at all times, who is proud of having a very small penis and taking a very short time to reach sexual climax.
How was that?
Great. Can't be many men you can use to time a pan of soft-boiled quail's eggs. 55 seconds. Perfect.
Less than a minute, eh? Getting quicker.
So his egotistical self-confidence could have no greater sort of badge than that.
Remember the Falklands, Gov? Indeed I do. I made a fortune.
So you could say he allows the audience to indulge its dark side.
What did he say about the National Health Service?
In the good old days, you were poor, you got ill, and you died.
People just laugh and applaud because he's stripping away the hypocrisy, and people think deep down that's what these politicians think.
A show like this always sails very close to the wind, by virtue of its theme.
If one were to just publish the lawyers' letters we received weekly from the lawyer at Yorkshire Television, it would make a very interesting volume.
The scripts had to be read very carefully, just to make sure, because libel was always tapping very quietly at our door.
That information will cost you.
How much?
An archer.
Oh, Geoffrey, that's £2,000!
Lawyers' demands also meant last-minute changes.
You'd get messages while you were in makeup or wherever saying, by the way, do not say Norman Lamont, substitute Norman Lamont with Cecil Parkinson or something, and you think, fucking hell, you know.
The series was recorded before a live audience, and the more up-to-the-minute the stories, the bigger the laughs.
The audience are in, the cameras are there, I'm sitting at the side like this. Morris comes up and says, "Hey, Rick, quick, look, here's 5 good ones." He gives me 5 good one-liners about something, maybe there'd been a plane crash that day, so there are a couple of sick one-liners about that, and just got to slither them in. I don't ever remember thinking, oh, for God's sake, about this. I was thinking what heaven I was in. You've got a really shit-hot rehearsed show, and here comes some extra gags. I mean, it's like raining gags.
And the buzz of the place was so intense that Morris and I decided that we wouldn't sit in the producer's box. We would actually sit in the audience with the audience, because we might never experience this again in our careers.
You know, in fact, I feel like getting down on my knees right now and giving thanks.
Mayall's talent as both a physical performer and comedy writer meant he had a big creative input.
Thank you, Lord.
Most situation comedies, at the time, you know, you got the script and that's what you shot. And with us, we were changing it in the rehearsal room because Rick would come up with ideas.
Oh, no, please, not the drill, no.
He was very prone to create elaborate business. So you'd write a line which said, "Rick hits Piers," and you'd come back about 2 days later to rehearsal, and there would now be a 5-minute torture sequence.
"Bottom, please, Piers."
And the director would say, "We're 10 minutes over now." And Rick would say, "Well, just can't you remove half the story so I can stick this thing up Piers's bottom?" And we used to have to really fight for plot. So there's a real creative tension between Rick's theatricality and our saying, we must tell the story of the week.
You see the window? Say sorry, Piers. £50 for the window pane.
Political insolence was not new to viewers of ITV's 10 p.m. Sunday slot. In the late 80s, Spitting Image was the New Statesman's only satirical ally.
I'm always awakened by the shrill sounds of the dawn chorus, which filters through the windows.
Director Geoffrey Sachs had come to the New Statesman from Spitting Image and brought with him Steve Nallen, a.k.a. Mrs. Thatcher.
Would you like to order, sir?
Yes, I will have a steak.
How'd you like it?
Raw, please.
And what about the vegetables?
Oh, they'll have the same as me.
You could dismiss Spitting Image as a silly puppet show. The fact that you could watch Alan Bstard and for a few moments watching that think, actually, this is a documentary. That was its true strength and genius.
Cecil! I told her to use the back entrance!
I'd suggested that if she was in the face pack and had the curlers in, it might be quite nice if she took her teeth out.
I was just trying to be true to the spirit of Thatcherism.
All you care about is number 1.
I thought that's what Thatcherism was all about.
Of course it is, of course it is.
And because I could only speak as my grandmother, doing the northern accent, Mrs. Thatcher suddenly turned all Yorkshire. For some reason, I never worked out why.
I don't think people appreciate the enormous pressure that's on writers, directors and actors when comedy is made.
It was pretty much a 7-day job.
We rehearsed, this is in London, on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday we travelled to Leeds, we did a walkthrough in Leeds.
Friday, dress rehearsal, tech and dress and record the show. Friday night, okay, in front of a live audience. Get very drunk, right? Wake up somewhere, 11's on Saturday.
Everybody travelled back to London drunk on a Saturday.
Crash out, wake up Sunday morning, straight to studio, read through, start again.
We were so exhausted by the end of the second series that we decided to kill him. We both agreed there wasn't any argument why kill off this wonderful character.
Please, Captain, can't need him for 2 weeks.
Well, force yourself.
and I thought it would be really good to do a really shocking ending, to make it look very graphic and look like it was something out of a thriller. I remember saying that we need a bullet hit right actually on the windscreen, right by you, and I remember him saying, "Is this going to be safe?" And I said, "Look, with respect, Rick, these guys do this every day." Well, anyway, they fired the bullet at the screen, and it bounced off, and it whizzed past Rick's eyes, and I mean, another inch, and he would now be sort of partially sighted. And he just turned around and said, "Well, thanks very much indeed," and I just didn't know what to say, but it looked great on the screen, it really did.
It happened at 3:47 p.m. as Mr. Bstard was coming out of the Department of the Environment. He was rushed to Charing Cross Hospital, but was found to be...
When you've got something successful as a commissioning editor, you're desperate to hang on to it and not throw it away. I took Rick out to lunch, and it was a wonderful, boozy, relaxed lunch, and it went on and on and on for ages. And I talked about ambition and family and life in general. And only when we got to the coffee did I ask him to do another series. And he almost sighed with relief that I'd actually got to the question that we both knew, why I'd taken him out to lunch. That's why we did another series.
They were also keen to bring it back because it won a BAFTA, and like Mrs. Thatcher, Bstard was successful both at home and abroad.
We were entered for an international Emmy, and being a very mean and selfish boss, I flew over to New York. I'd taken all the brickbats, so I felt I was due for it.
It wasn't a wasted jolly, because the New Statesman won the Emmy. The cast and crew were invited to a party, not in New York, but downtown Leeds.
And there was the Emmy in all its glory. We didn't know that someone at the airport had dropped it and the wings had fallen off, and someone at Yorkshire Television had put them on upside down because they'd never seen an Emmy before.
So Bstard bobbed up for a third time, but there had to be a reshuffle as director Geoffrey Sachs was no longer available. He was enjoying a quieter life directing the BBC's Sleepers, which clashed with the New Statesman. Eventually Sachs made his way to Hollywood, where he directed the family blockbuster Stormbreaker. But in the UK in the 90s, even bigger political changes were afoot. Mrs. Thatcher was ousted as Prime Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving Downing Street for the last time.
Real life had overtaken the New Statesman, causing problems for the writers.
There was Heseltine, Hurd, Major fighting to take over. We thought if Hurd gets made PM, we'll be all right, because we know quite a lot about him. And if Heseltine, it will be even better. And bugger me if it's not John Major, and nobody knows anything about John Major at all.
The wind had gone out of the sails of the Tory party. During Series 3, Bstard toyed with crossing the floor to the Labour benches, which was eerily in tune with the feeling in the Conservative Party at the time.
Why join the Labour Party? You're ahead in the polls.
It's just so boring being a Tory now that Maggie's left. I mean, have you ever had a conversation with John Major?
No.
I'm not saying he's dull, but he is the only boy in history to run away from the circus to join a firm of accountants.
This was getting a bit close to the bone, because during that period there were quite a lot of Tory MPs who could see that the Tory government was coming to an end and they hadn't become ministers themselves. And there was really quite a trickle, moving towards an avalanche of Conservative MPs who were going over to the Labour side.
Once again, at the end of Series 3, they tried hard to get rid of Bstard.
We were really knackered, we were really exhausted. We said, oh my God, we can't go through this again. Let's send him off to the Russian gulag.
I'm going home. Is there anything you'd like me to give Sarah for you?
There's no way he's going to come back from that, but bugger me, back he came.
You know why he came back? The wall came down.
That's right, the bloody Berlin Wall came down. I mean, the one thing we couldn't
have anticipated happened.
That was just such...
We couldn't get rid of Bstard.
Such bad luck. So we had to bring him back again.
So, whenever they tried to dump him, events conspired to bring Bstard back. By Series 4, he had mutated into a Euro MP, but eventually, enough was enough.
Politics was dull. I remember us wandering around in the United States, it's really boring this decade, isn't it? So Alan wasn't sort of required. His job was to assassinate Thatcher, and that job had been done. And he was so good, he carried on for a while, and then we said, no, come on, let's just stop.
The New Statesman had run its course, but Marks and Gran was still going strong. During Bstard's reign of terror, they launched Alamo, their own production company, which produced Birds of a Feather.
You have no right to talk to me like that! Everyone round here knows you're the most popular ride outside Alton Towers.
After the New Statesman, Mayall reverted to type, and with his old pal Adrian Edmondson, created Bottom, a byword for rude, violent pantomime.
I think I must be hallucinating.
Well, we'll soon find out.
Italy.
Mayall tried his hand in Hollywood with Drop Dead Fred, but in 1998, real disaster struck.
The comedian Rik Mayall is in hospital with serious head injuries after an accident at his country home in Devon.
By 2002, Mayall was reunited with Marks and Gran, and there were high hopes for their ITV series Believe Nothing,
which had some great ideas in it, wasn't sufficiently different. In a way, it was like the new Statesman in disguise.
Believe Nothing was cancelled after the first series. It seemed the spark had gone out of their relationship.
Our choir is 100% castrato. 35 strapping choristers, and not an atom of testosterone among them. Luckily, I have the libido of 36 men, which balances things up.
Mayall believes that once you've achieved success with a character, you're best leaving him alone. Advice handed down at a meeting with one of his heroes, Little Richard.
Always stop at the top. Always stop at the top. He's talking about waiting. You get the stage, you stand at the side, and he gets the band on first, and you get them to hop the audience up. So you get the audience high. Get them high before you get on that stage. So they already high. When you get on that stage, you take them higher, and take them higher, till they can't get no higher. And when they can't get no higher, you get off that stage. And my principal agreed with that.
This principle was tested when he heard that Marks and Gran were cooking up a 21st century version of The New Statesman.
And then the boys this year said, well, we'll just do Alan again. And I said, no, because Little says, we stop at the top. But they presented me with the script, and I thought, don't, Rick, don't, wait, no, yeah, this is good. And they come up with the concept that Alan Bstard invented New Labour.
With the need for political satire as strong as ever in 2006, Marks and Gran obliged by resurrecting Bstard on the stage.
There is a path to immortality.
He had changed his political colours, moved into number 9 Downing Street, and was the brains behind New Labour.
To go down in history is a single, unique attribute. All you have to do, Tony, is to cling to power until November the 26th, 2008. And you will have been at number 10 a whole day longer than Mrs. Thatcher. Yeah.
The hatred for the establishment that there was in the 80s is why Alan existed then. And I think there's an unspoken hatred of the establishment now.
Within 3 days, I think, of the launch of the play, Prime Minister's questions, a Tory backbencher stood up.
Could the Prime Minister please tell us which of his policies does he think is responsible for the defection to Labour of Mr Alan Bstard?
Well, I don't know. I'm not in a position to comment on Mr Bstard, but what I can say to him is...
It just reiterated the fact that Bstard was real. He wasn't a character out of a television sitcom.
The marriage of mainstream sitcom and alternative comedy had created an original satire. The survival of Bstard is a tribute to Marks and Gran, Mayall, and the power of satire to skew a New Statesman, whatever their political hue.
What have you been getting through in Parliament this week?
2 shorthand typists in the canteen, lady.
I had never experienced anything like this with any show I'd ever visited or been responsible for, and to this day...
We just had a ball doing it. I mean, I almost felt guilty about sort of taking the paycheck because it was so much fun to do.
Any old tosspot can become a Tory MP if he knows what palms to grease.
Right. Well, come on, get up and make a fight of it! Come on, get up, you little bastard, get up! Please?
Every moment in that Yorkshire television studio on a Friday night was as good an evening at the theatre as I think you could ever hope for from a television series.
Oh, that's just what I need first thing on a Friday morning, isn't it? A dead dwarf!
It makes me very, very happy playing Alan.
You bastard! Bstard!